if I'm hearing from God, he's going to reveal to me the brightest points in my life.
It is a test of our faith when you know you're called to something greater, but you're so comfortable in the comfort zone.
He spoke to me very clearly, like, Justin, there are opportunities for you, but you're not ready yet. You have to prepare yourself. How can I bless you if you don't know how to manage the blessings I've already given you? I couldn't settle for just being okay. Everybody's dealt with that. That okay is the bills are paid, but I got about $200 left to kind of wiggle through the next couple of weeks, right? Even, the opportunity I got with Ryan Pineda, that came after a 10-day fast. On day 10, I got the call to meet with him.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a new episode on the Divinely Disruptive podcast. I'm your host, Jane Powers. Today in our studio, we have a very special guest. Not only is he a true man of God, he's a divine disruptor in the digital space, and I truly believe he's a light in this city of Vegas. Welcome, Justin.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
I'm so glad you're here.
I know. I'm excited.
Yes. Thanks for making time to be here. I know you're busy. You got family.
Yeah.
But let's just cut to the chase. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you to Vegas.
Oh, wow. So I don't know how far you want me to go back, but like you said, I am Justin Berry. I'm a digital creator in the space, producer. And really what brought me to Vegas was just opportunity. I grew up in Chicago. I played basketball out in Chicago. I went to college, played some ball. And after college, I kind of realized that, the Midwest, I was tired of the snow, tired of the weather. I wanted to see some sunshine and some palm trees. So, we looked to come West Coast. I was married. I got married kind of young, I was one of those. But I found my soulmate, and we were like, all right, the moment you finish college, we're going to start looking. And so finished up college. I finished up a year before her. She finished, and then we went out to California and was like, let's see what happens here. Quickly realized that California wasn't really for us. I had picked up the ability to film things and do photography, so I knew like California is like the hub. It's the spot where when you're trying to make it in an industry like that. And I just quickly realized that I wasn't getting much for my money out there. The places that we could afford were older, smaller, not necessarily the best of neighborhoods. And so I was looking for more. That's the thing too. Like I tell people, don't settle, right? Like don't settle for something that God doesn't have for you. But eventually I had one friend in Vegas. It was the only person I knew in Las Vegas. And he was like, hey, just come out next weekend and just take a look. Like, see. At the time, he was living in the Southwest Side, was kind of brand new, maybe 2 years old, the apartment building that he was in. And when I went out there, I was like, all right, for this price, for what I get, still the location is another hub for media. And I was like, all right, we're gonna make the jump. So I came out and, looking for opportunities, looking for things that I can do as a profession. I actually have a sociology criminology degree with a minor in psychology. So at the time, I was set to start with Metro. It was just something like I was like, I'm going to do this because I know this is going to feed the family. But my passion was really in the media space. And so in doing all of that, I started to find my way.
I love to hear that. And even just as you're sharing, I didn't know that. Like my husband and I, we loved you the moment we met you. I mean,
yes.
We had such a blessing to meet you in the church, but I know that there's so many people probably watching you on social media. And you said so much right there. I just want to take a moment to just honor you and even your commitment from the get-go. You're like, all right, I met this girl. She was my soulmate. We moved and we did it. But I love what you said is don't settle. It's so easy to have a vision, have a dream, or maybe you're like, well, this is all I can get. So the fact that it already took you all those little mini journeys to get to Vegas, I honor you and I feel safe with you. I'm like, okay, even if you didn't, pursue your original education, I love that even your passion in digital creation, that is really incredible.
Yeah.
Because off the record, we were just chatting about whether it's culture or pressure from family, get a good education and just stick to the path. But man, from the jump, you were like, no, I'm not going to settle.
No, I mean, and Jay, let me tell you this. You and your husband have been a blessing to me. We've had conversations. We've had personal like interactions with each other. And I think like those interactions is what has like improved me every day, right? Like having those conversations, getting insight, gaining perspective from you and your husband Nick. But it's been a great experience just sharing life with you, and having the opportunity to kind of really communicate all the time when we see each other in church and things like that. And so I just want to say, like, I affirm everything that you're doing here, right? Like, I really hope that this does exactly what you wanted to do for you. Again, this is a platform that you're creating, a safe space for anybody that comes in. And so I think there's like really big things coming for you in this space. And so let me say that. Let me start there.
I'm like, I didn't bring any tissues right now, so let's hold up for a minute.
Yeah, let's get later on, and then we'll bust out the tears.
Absolutely.
But I really mean when I say that. Like, this is going to be something special. But again, going back to not settling. And I think like for me personally, like I've always, I grew up in the church, played drums. My father was the bass player. My mom was choir president. My sister ran the praise dance ministry as well as directed the choir. So my family was heavily involved in the church. And so I always had the faith to back everything that I wanted to do. When it came to sports and playing college ball, I may not have been the tallest or the best athlete, out there, but God provided a way for me to do that. And so I knew that as long as I followed and was obedient to whatever his will was, that I would find my way. So I never felt like settling was an option. And so when it came to moving, to Las Vegas, a few things happened. And I could really break this story down without getting too detailed, but 2 weeks before we were set to make the move, mind you, we do have a 1-year-old at the time. He turned 1 in June. We were moving in August. So imagine what family, you talked about family, but imagine what family felt, in that moment. And we, even if they didn't show it, they didn't really feel the fact that we were moving across country with the 1-year-old, but it was God's will. And so 2 weeks before we got ready to move, I tore my patella tendon, complete rupture. Couldn't bend my knee, couldn't move it back, nothing. And I had to stay back for surgery. And so, it was a trying time because, like I said, I was set to start the academy with Metro Police here. With a torn patella tendon, that dream, that's over at that point. It takes almost a year to even run, normal again. And so, with the battle of trying to figure out what's next, not only physically but mentally, especially for an individual that relied on his athletic ability the majority of his life. Like, that was always my advantage. The fact that I could run faster and jump higher than most. This was, I was like, the academy's going to be a breeze. I'm going to get through this, easy. And so, I felt in that moment, first it was like you get that sense of like disappointment, betrayal, like, God, why is this happening to me? But very quickly, this is what happens when you have a good, partner. My wife goes, let's pray. This is the night before we were supposed to leave. And at this point, she's driving across country by herself. She's like, let's pray and figure out, are we really supposed to make this move? And we both woke up the next morning, and she looked at me, did you hear something? I go, did you hear something? And she's off. God told us to do it. Believe, have faith, and trust that he was going to provide and be who he truly is in our lives. And so she took that trek by herself. I had to stay back for surgery. But in all, I was like, yeah, I'm never going to settle, which meant that being law enforcement wasn't for me. And, I didn't look at it like a disappointment anymore. I looked at it like, yeah, he has something better for me. I don't know what that is, right? And we're going to get out here and we're going to try to figure it out. But he has something, something there for me. And I always believe that, even in the most trying times, especially mentally, because you deal with that, when you have some type of letdown like that. But, in the long run, and you think, in hindsight, you think like, yeah, I in that moment, I felt like, all right, now I'm here in Vegas. Leg doesn't work. It's 115 degrees. I can't even help them move stuff in. All right, I got to ask friends and got to watch other people do it. And so it was like, all right, what do I do now? Justin, you got to figure this out. Like, you got to figure it out. I was kind of like, with some church hurt, I didn't want to do, I wasn't even going. I didn't want to go. And again, that she looked at me and said, oh, you going today? We're going, and you're going to go again, and we're going to check it out. And it's just continuing not to settle, right? She's not settling for less than what she know God has for us. And so as we continue to grow, things just start to fall in place.
See, even that story right there, Justin, I'm like, thank you, God. No wonder you're in my life. No wonder you're in my husband's life. Because shoot, I know a lot of people listening and watching, including myself right now. I was a ex-athlete. I was a little arrogant. I played golf. So I would kind of stunt with my ego, like, oh, I got the athlete ability.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you shared about your injury, it's like, dang, I know a lot of people can relate in that way where they might come off a little arrogant. We all have that phase, okay? Nobody's perfect. But you walk in with a vision and you're like, oh, I got this in the bag. And then something obviously you don't expect happens. It's like, okay, you have two extreme options. You lean into faith. Hopefully you believe in God. If so, maybe one day you will. But you only have two extreme options.
Mm-hmm.
Believe and push through it and know that there's going to be a breakthrough even when you're breaking down. Or, you know what, God or the universe, screw it. I'm going to be nothing. I'm just going to settle. I'm just going to stay. But that courage, like as you were just sharing that story, I was taking myself there just as even your wife. Like, dang, she's an incredible woman. Off the record, I was saying, hey, tell her I say hello. She's a fierce queen. But the fact that she had faith to say, you know what, babe, we're going to pray. Like, yes, I understand what's going on, but I hear God and we're going to do this. So already in advance, I just see God's hand on your life, your future, your family, and your kids.
Absolutely.
Whew. Mm. Like, if that's not a testimony right there, like, come on now.
Oh.
And look at where you're at now, Justin. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So again, I know that's one of the many stories you have, but thank you for sharing, because one of my goals right now is let's not forget the journey. Let's not forget the importance of faith, God, spirituality, because it's not just about clapping when we make it, but how about can we lean in through the journey? Because let's face it, even when we meet each other at church or at the grocery store, we can't just fixate on putting on a face and pretending everything's fine, because the reality is even the most healthiest, wealthiest people, even we need a pat on the back.
Oh, yeah.
And you know that you're a big boy, but I slap you like a little kid. Like, what's up, brother?
Oh, yeah.
How you doing? But don't we all need that?
Absolutely.
We all need encouragement and say, you know what? You're doing great.
Yeah.
I know times have been tough, but you're doing great. So the fact that you can share that story humbly and stand firm in what you are in God and still be a leader in your family and what you do, like, that is just so respectable. So even for men, when they show vulnerability, to me, I have to celebrate that because it's not common and I don't feel like enough people are doing that.
Yeah. I mean, even like in those times, the darkest of what was in that point in my life, even in that moment, I felt like it's like if I'm hearing from God, he's going to reveal to me the brightest points in my life. And that's what happened. Truly, that's what happened. I got to see her differently. Because you're talking about, 24 hours of a drive across country. And up until that point, I drove everywhere. So like, she hadn't had to really do much of that, watching the strength in that. And for her to go, all right, I'm going, pack up, let's go. Right. So it reveals things to you. Right. Marriage gets a little shaky because now I can't work. Her job has to provide for everything in this new move. I have to figure it out. But what he revealed to me again was, you got to get up, right? You do have the strength to do this. You do have the strength. So I had that surgery in July. In November, I was working for the Armored Truck Service. Now, not to compare anything from armored truck to law enforcement, because it's a big, huge difference. But the physicality of moving around money and coins everywhere told me that God revealed again, you can do whatever you need to. That knee, it might be a little shaky getting into the truck when you first start, but you do it and you'll grow, right? All that pain started to leave. Legs got stronger, and I was like, yeah, this is it. I got to a point to where my leaders in that industry would put me in areas that they were kind of worried about going into because they saw the strength, right? And so, those moments, those dark times reveal things to you. As long as you're aware and paying attention to them, stuff is revealed for you that help you later on. And so like, I look at it, now where I'm at now, and I'm like, yeah, this really is just the beginning, right? This is just getting going. We're talking, that was 2019 that all like this kind of happened. And so I was like, yeah, like, what do you have for me? Like, what's next? That's how I look at the day to day. Like, what's coming next? And so to kind of hit on what you said, you have the ability to either follow what you're being led to do in obedience or fold. And you just have to make a choice in that moment, right? Are you going to trust God to do what he really is capable of doing, to provide, to lead you, right? To guide you in the direction that he has for you, and then step into what he has, because that's also a big step, right? Or are you going to fold and kind of like have your own little pity party over here in your corner? And it's just about, what you choose to do. I think most individuals, whether they know it or not, have the ability to step into what it is. They just have to be willing and be strong in the moment. And so like we can get into it later about stories that we know about each other, but this is one of those situations where I'm watching you step into something. I'm watching Nick step into something that God is calling you to do. And so it's gonna be an amazing thing, in here in the future.
And I feel convicted too, just as I'm talking to you, and I'm like, dang, it's like you see me, because the reality is, when you're present and you're aware of your gifts and you're aware of the gifts of other people, we're just able to connect on such a deeper level. And one of the things that I appreciate about you is you never judged our journey. And I know some people, they might say, well, what do you mean? Like, you're doing great, I'm doing great. But the thing is, we don't just wake up successful. We don't just wake up one day and we made it. We don't just wake up and go viral. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it's putting in the work, staying focused. We were talking about consistency. Mm-hmm. And, even today I DM'd you. I was like, yo, I'm looking for a part-time job. Yeah. Let me know. But even my husband, he's like, Jane, I love you to death, but perhaps are you trying a little too hard to force doors? Or do you think maybe you need to lean in a little bit more to God and just trust his timing? I'm like, oh, you really trying to start here? But I think it is a test of our faith when you know you're called to something greater, but you're so comfortable in the comfort zone. You want to stick around and hang with the people you're used to, go into the same job that you're used to doing. But like you said, to step in your magic, to step into that divine purpose you have, it's a feeling that you cannot explain. Like maybe the money's not coming in yet, or the money you're used to isn't coming in yet, but there's a greater fulfillment. So tell me a little bit too about just when you jumped into the digital creative space, and, we all have a vision like, okay, how do we want to show up in this space? Mm-hmm. What was that journey like?
So it's changed. Let me start there. When I first got into the space, like as a profession, I came in as an editor. Simple. I was like, I could work from home, be with my kids. I can work on my own schedule, my own time, giving me the freedom. I had friends who were entrepreneurs. And for people that have like those individuals that they know that are entrepreneurs, that have their own business or operating in their own business, it looks really enticing on the outside, right? Like it looks wonderful. This guy gets to go and do whatever he wants any time of day that he wants to do it because he has the freedom to move around. What I learned is that that's not necessarily the way to be a successful entrepreneur. And so, for me starting, I was like, all right, I got this. I'm going to be with my kids from like that 3 to 7 time period. I'm going to go do some edits. That might go through the night depending on how many retainers I can get. And I'm going to just keep racking up retainers. I'm doing all the work myself. So that's how I started in the space. It was like get a retainer, get them on that monthly payment, making sure that I could pay my bills and everything, and then doing all the work, right? Quickly I learned that it's not sustainable. And so I knew that I needed to make some type of change. That change being, all right, something consistent with opportunity available. And so really what was happening was the retainers were coming and going and the money wasn't necessarily staying consistent. And if it wasn't enough to kind of push the needle on lifestyle or things that I want. And again, not settling. I couldn't settle for just being okay. And everybody's dealt with that. That okay is the bills are paid, but I got about $200 left to kind of wiggle through the next couple of weeks, right? Or the bills are paid and I got maybe $500 that we can go. Let's get a dinner and then let's shut it down until we get paid again. And it was like, all right, this isn't really what God said this was going to be for me. He spoke to me very clearly, like, Justin, there are opportunities for you, but you're not ready yet. You have to prepare yourself. And so that time period was me preparing. figuring out, like really doing it wrong first, like making the mistakes early to be able to sit in front of people and then teach, be able to, to talk to people and help people, right? Because that's what the passion was. That's what the law enforcement thing was. That's what it was all like how can I like really give to people, in any kind of helpful way that I could. And so, going through that phase was a little trying, right? Like it's a transition, but when an opportunity came, that was when I was like, okay, here is an opportunity not only for me to make more money, right? But we actually get to help people. And now it's evolved to something even bigger where I am sitting in front of the microphone, right? You got to think it goes editor, behind the camera, in front of the camera, and who knows what God has next. I'm not limiting him at all with whatever he has for me. And so that journey's pretty crazy. But it is one that I can say I've enjoyed taking, right? Like try through the bad, through the good, whatever, happens. I've enjoyed, having, these moments in life, especially as you get older. It's like you really can appreciate them because I'm like, this window's getting a little shorter every day. So it's like, yeah, this is, one of those things where, been extremely blessed, but the journey means a lot because it's prepared me for where I'm at today and where I'm going in my future.
Man, that's so dope. Like people listening, they're probably thinking, wait, he was just an editor, trying to get clients. What do you mean? I see him crushing it right now.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important. I mean, you hit it on the head. Try to enjoy the journey. I mean, you're calling me out right now. You can ask my husband. I am not enjoying the journey. I want to get there. I'm stubborn, military background. Like, let me just get there.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you were just sharing, hey, listen, in every season, you had to do what you had to do. And you said something so crazy. God will give you, whatever you desire. However, he knows when you're ready and he knows when you're not ready. And I truly believe when things are given, I don't have kids, but let's say you're giving your son or your daughter a beautiful gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing for them to earn it and they deserved it and the gratitude they feel versus, okay, you didn't do nothing around the house and here's a new toy, right? So similar to a gift, maybe finances, maybe abundance, maybe a platform. What you said was wild for me right now because I had a moment of a little bit of cockiness. Like, God, like I work out. I grew up in beauty and fashion. I know how to dress the part. So put me on.
Yeah.
Like literally, I'm ready. Put me on next to Wendy Williams right now.
Right.
And then I remember just having an ego check like, okay, so to get on that platform, let's take a little inventory of your soul.
Yeah.
Are you easily offended? Do you talk crap about people? Are you judging people? Are you severely worried about how other people see you? Are you listening to other people's opinions over your truth and who God created you to be? And I was like, whoa.
Check you. Like you have to look at it like yes, I am who I present as. I am who I know I truly am on the inside. But the truth is I'm really who he's made me. And so when I look at things like when I really take a step back and look at it, I go, okay, I want more, and I'm ready for the money, God. This is, I was an editor. I'm ready to really get to the real money. Like this isn't it. And he's telling me you're not ready yet. You know how he's telling me? Because I can't manage what I'm making now. Right. And then I finally go, all right, here's my 10% every week. Here's me, the homeless guy I see here, just a blessing because I got it in my pocket and I know I should give it to you. Right. Here's an opportunity. Like I'm taking every job I can get my hand on just to get the dollar rather than being like, oh, my friend my associate who's also in the space needs this money even more than I do. Let me, refer them to the job. Right. Or I found myself like taking opportunities that I wasn't even qualified for just to get the money. And I was like, no, I'll refer you to somebody that's more qualified to do this. But all those things were happening. He's like, how can I bless you if you don't know how to manage the blessings I've already given you? And it's like, it happens in the finance. Okay, here goes. Here, I got you now. You ready now? Here you go. I'm in that place again. It's like, okay, Justin, I've blessed you with what you prayed about. You prayed for an opportunity to bless other people. You prayed, like I changed that prayer. I was like, forget getting finance. I need God create an abundance for me so that I could just bless as many people that are around me as I can. Right? That starts to happen now. Right? And then there's another plateau. Okay. You did what you wanted. right? Now I have more for you, but you're not ready yet. And so you go through this over and over again. It's okay, God, I hear you. All right, I'm wondering why. Like, all right, I'm doing good, but there should be like, if I'm gonna stay on this trajectory, this is around the time I should be seeing more opportunity. And he's like, yeah, no, you're not ready yet, right? And so you have to see it that way, like you said. Start looking at the inner you and going, okay, this is where I'm missing. I should be on that stage next to Wendy Williams. And now, like even today, I'm finding myself on stages and in conversations that I'm like, I don't know how I ended up here, but I'm here now. This is him giving me, what I'm praying for, And so it's like it's gonna happen over and over again. Like you're gonna see an increase, and then he's gonna go, all right, I got more for you, but prepare yourself, be ready. And so consciously, I'm trying to be better at that every day, and as I'm going about my way, we're trying to be better at that as a family, right? Like figuring out how to be aware of the situation and knowing like, yeah, this isn't it. This is comfortable, but this isn't it. You have more to do. And so, you're gonna feel the same things as you're continuing to evolve, because it's the arrogance, it's the pride, it's all those things that kind of hinder those that you got to remove to really get to where where you really want to go.
No, and I just had a humorous moment right there, and I'm thinking, okay, we are both athletes. We are highly competitive, and I don't want to speak for you, but I do believe highly competitive, overachieving athletes. Sometimes the cons of that is we, not on purpose, but we have a little bit of ego, a little bit of pride,
Oh, yeah.
we flex a little bit. And back to what you were sharing is God knows best. God has a plan. God's timing is always on perfect time. But he knows when we need to trim the fat. He knows when it's like, all right, Justin, you acting a little too righteous without me. And I have those moments too when I'm looking in the mirror like, okay, Jane, are you being confident in you and your flesh, or are you being confident in God? Because those are two different realms. Are you trying to be what you see on TV, or are you truly in alignment and walking in your truth and the truth that God put in your soul? So, I don't want to flatter you too hard today, okay, because you're my brother. But have you ever had a moment where, you succeeded, or the money was coming through, or like you mentioned, you were sitting next to people you didn't know maybe you were worthy enough, and, it got to you a little? Because I know I'm not the only one where I get a little excited, a little too carried away, and I'm like, all right, look at me, I'm making it. And then God checks me like, hey, calm down. You're doing it. You're doing great, but don't forget me. But is it easy to kind of lose yourself sometimes in that digital creative space when you're around such amazing people that you would die to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just the simple answer is like, yes, you do find yourself in awe of yourself sometime. Like, Justin, you're doing it. And really, it doesn't take, like, for me personally, like, my love language is words of affirmation. All right. So when I go home and she's like, bro, you're killing it, that's all I need to really continue to be motivated and keep it going. And I've never really cared about anyone else giving me that, right? Like, because the person that I cared most about is who I wanted from. It was Ashley, my wife, and my mom. If those two said it, I'm good. Like, I'm ready to, to kind of push forward in whatever it was. But I'll say, like, the last 6 or 7 months have been like so rewarding for the work that I've put in before, that I tend to have to kind of step back, like, all right, slow down, Justin. Like, this isn't what you're doing. Remember what the mission is here. Like, remember why you're doing it, because it can get crazy. Like, I'm blessed enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with someone like Ryan Pineda, who I produce, but the rooms that he's like a part of are the Grant Cardones, the Gary V's, the Patrick Bet-Davids. It's high level individuals that are doing business really, at a high level. And so when the professional athlete walks in, I'm kind of like, hey man, how you doing? Nice to meet you. But I have to remind myself, like, not everybody is blessed enough to have this opportunity. And so for me, I have to take advantage and go, all right, Justin, you have to have a question for him. It's time to learn. It's time to figure, right? Like, I remember, and just a quick story, we had Derek Carr on the podcast when he was a quarterback for the Raiders. And he walked in and I'm like, oh, he ain't that big. I'm like, oh, man, like what? Like, on the field, he looks like a big quarterback. And I'm like, oh, so they're not really that crazy, and I play basketball. So I'm thinking to myself, like, I kind of measure up in height. And then he shakes my hand, and his wrist, I mean, his tip of his fingers were back on the front end of my arm and on my forearm, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what it is. Like there is something special that got him to the level that he's at, right? Outside of the skill, I was like, his hands are humongous. But I was like, yeah, take it down a notch, bro. Like, this is somebody that is doing it at a high enough level for you to really try to learn from. And as he began to speak, he talked, because he preaches, he ministers. And so it was like, yeah, like, there's more to him than the sport that he plays. What is it to you? Speaking of myself, like, what's to you that is more than just what you present and provide for someone? So for me now, I'm wanting to expose more than just a content creator, right? Like, yes, that's I take pride in helping as many people as I can create and learn and do the things that we're doing for other people. But really, what is beyond that? Like, what else are you offering to the world, to your viewers, to the people that are supporting you? And so that's when I kind of, and for me, it's not difficult to do that. Like, I've always been like, my dad was super humble, even though he, did a lot of things. And so I come from that. Like, we were quiet, we're kind of mild, man. And you know this, like, I'm an observer before I'm the person that's in the spotlight. I'm never the loudest person in the room. But it made it what that does essentially is make me like kind of take the opportunity to go, all right, you're here now. Do what you need to keep improving, keep doing whatever it is that, is next for you. So
no, and I love that because I can hear and feel through my encounters with you. I was actually talking to my husband about this. You have a very strong yet silent way of reading the room, but leading the room. And when you speak with such wisdom. And I love that you were sharing your family background, how you grew up in the faith, very charismatic, I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I love that you mentioned your father. And I was actually going to ask you, where did you get that ability to lead the way you do and also choose to lead the way that you do? Because I've been in Vegas for a few years now. It's easy to get arrogant in the way you lead and say, okay, I'm the boss, I'm the leader, I'm the one in charge. But lately I've been learning, maybe it's time and wisdom and maturity, is wait a minute, sometimes the quietest person in the room might be the wisest. You don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
So speak a little bit about leadership style, how you move the room, and I don't know, just your superpower.
Yeah, so I mean, I credit my parents to it. Like I had a mom who, from the time I was little, would like communicate with me in every kind of way that she could, right? To the point to where she's like, all right, Justin, can you give me a second to think? But my mom is an overanalyzer. So she's like, she'll break down anything. We can see a commercial on the TV and we're trying to figure out the commercial, right? Like that's just how we she is. And that kind of extended on to me. So what that does essentially is it allows you to think before you ever speak. And so in the thinking phase of that conversation, you're observing everyone else too. Now, my father, who was a Chicago police officer for 30 years, he was the observer. And so he's the guy that goes into the restaurant and makes sure that his seat is facing the door, right? He has to see everybody. Or like even for me, like coming to my basketball games, right? He had 40 questions about the same, it's the same people at the game. Like, it's not like it's going to be same students, same parents at every game, but he had to know things before he came. Bugged the daylights out of me. But as I got older, I started to understand, like, yeah, like you want to, like the police, you want to gather information before you enter into the space. But what that did essentially is it allowed me to be pretty much like a chameleon in the room. Like I'm able to adjust depending on what room I'm in, but being observant allowed me to speak and speak clearly. And so like now, I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I'm always wanting to be in a room that's going to elevate me. And so as I sit back and I kind of observe, I really try to take in as much information as I can so that when I speak, I am heard and it's correct information. Not always right? Like that's stuff, I'm going to be wrong about stuff, but it's what I believed in that moment to be true. And so that's just what that's where I come from, like that type of style. Now, when it comes to being a leader and being in a leadership role, I've learned that if you're not always talking or trying to be the boss or being very loud, when you do speak, the whole room shuts down to hear you. So like that loud boss that's like, loud and trying to be in front of everything and making sure that everybody knows they're the boss, they get a lot of pushback because individuals like, all right, I didn't need all that. Just tell me what to do. All right. That's how most people operate. Now there are times where you do have to kind of get loud and make sure that, your team is hearing you so that you are the authority in the room. But I learned that, like I don't have to be loud to make my point clear. And in fact, people will respect you for being honest in what you say, but also standing firm in what you believe. So it's, hey, this is the way we're going to do this. All right. The moment that you don't, I'm just going to move on from it. I'm not going to hesitate. I'm just going to say, hey, look, this isn't going to work. Seeing me do that with an individual or seeing me do that for people, they're like, no, let's figure it out. I was like, okay, we can figure it out, but it's got to go this way. Never had to raise my voice, never had to. But before that, I wasn't the loudest in the room. So now that I've spoken, it becomes like I'm gathering their attention even more. I do it at home too, right? Like I don't have to raise my voice to my kids, right? Like I got 2 kids. My 6-year-old, I can go, Noah, I'm so disappointed in you, and it's just tears, waterworks. Like I just beat him. But my 2-year-old, he a little bit tougher, right? Like he's the one I'm like, Nathan, come on, man, why are you doing that? He's like, sorry, and then running away. 2 different responses. I'm going to have to communicate different with them. I'm going to have to show and provide leadership differently between the 2. But in those interactions, I can learn that, right? I know that now. I know that about them, and so it makes it very easy. Like I implement the same thing in the workplace. Like how I deal with one person that I'm working with is totally different than how I deal with another. And so, but I've observed it already. Like I've taken a step back and really watched behavior, watch communication. Like I said, I have the sociology and psych degree. So I spent 4 or 5 years studying like just the human behavior alone. And so I can usually feel when, you're a little taken aback, or I see a facial expression and I'm like, like, I can see it from across the room, like they're coming for me. Here it comes. But that's a part of, my leadership process. And I've learned things, right? Like, again, being around people at a high level, I've, taken on, this is how you do it, and this is the results you get. I'll implement that somehow in my process as well. So, it just happens naturally for me. I think like, again, it's taking that time to really learn an individual and then learn a process to deal with them.
No, and you're dropping so many gems right now, because not just people who want to have their own business, maybe they are working in a business and they're forced to be in a role of leadership, is, man, people think that barking the loudest or talking the loudest, or my favorite, they try to intimidate people. I had a lot of micromanagers in the past, but you are just a natural leader. So I wanted to take a moment and ask about leadership, because you have such a father-like nurturing spirit, and especially coming from a man, that is just so remarkable and so respectable. Because one of my daily prayers is, God, would you put good people in power? Just good people with platform, just good people, God. Like They don't even need to be rich. They don't even need to be that good looking, maybe just a little bit. Okay. Easy on the eye, but God, just good people. So for me, I talk about manifestation, believing and all that, but even bigger and better, like just God's plan for our lives. When I see people like yourself being chosen and elevating and being put into positions of power and leadership and divine platform, it just gives me so much hope, because I could sit here and people listening and watching, they might be like, well, Justin, I didn't really have leaders like you, or I didn't have role models like you. That's why I got teary-eyed earlier. I'm like, man, even your presence just sitting here, like, I can't say I've had that for a minute. I mean, I have a husband, but that's different. I'm just talking about positive, healthy male figures, because I've worked in male-dominated industries, and they didn't always make me feel comfortable. And I've been telling you, I'm very, I was raised with 2 older brothers. I love them so much. And they taught me how to be gritty and stand up for yourself. But it's like, we still need more space for women to thrive in male dominated industry. And that's another conversation for another day. But I love just the way that you show up.
Yeah.
And it's just, man, I just pray that there would be more leaders like yourself, where appropriately it's like this nurturing father-like role. And you see so many brokenness in the world. I mean, you see so many people lost, and I think people are actually just craving community. Like, I'm at a point too, Justin, where I'm like, shoot, I'm used to certain industries like marketing, beauty, fashion, events, the party life, woohoo. But if I don't have great leadership and a positive community, I mean, shoot, I might as well go make some plants in the garden and make $5 an hour if I have great leadership and I have a community that I call family. So to switch gears a little bit for yourself, Justin, because again, I'm sure a lot of people look up to you, including me, but we're still human. How do you stay rooted and grounded, and tell me the importance of community for you?
Yeah, community is most important for me. I'm a communal person. Like, I want to be around individuals that I feel love for and that feel love for me. Even, the opportunity I got with Ryan Pineda, that came after a 10-day fast. On day 10, I got the call to meet with him. And interesting enough, during that fast, my prayer was, one, God, please financially allow me to be blessed with an abundance to help people. I talked about that earlier. But the second part of that prayer was that God surround me around Christian men. Right? And the reason why, obviously, coming from law enforcement, coming from, the armor, like, that industry is toxic. It's really toxic. A lot of men don't want to go home to their wives, right? They're not happy. A lot of men suffer from, like, PTSD and other issues that they have. And so that was my day-to-day for 10, 12 hours a day, every day for a while, for a year. And so I was like, all right, this is enough. Like, put me around someone, like other Christian men who enjoy doing and being in the space that I want to be in. And then also, like, let the leader be that Christian that is actually living what they're talking, right? And so, because again, you can claim to be whatever, and there's no way for really, like, somebody on the outside that has to really know the truth until they're inside. I didn't want to get inside and then find out that this was all a facade. And God answered that. He answered that. He put an individual in my life that not only was close in age, so we can relate on some of the same things, right? We listened to the same songs in high school, but also an athlete, ex-athlete, right? Someone who, made it as far as the minor leagues and was really good at what he did. But then he understood business, right? Then he understood how to communicate and lead people. He hosted his own Bible study. Right, like, all these elements that I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is it. You put somebody in my life that is, no matter what happens from this point, right? This may only last 6 months, but whatever happens from this point, I know that it's out there now, right? Because again, like you, I had never seen this before. Like, I had never been around somebody who was truly walking what they were talking, and so again, it motivated me too. Like, all right, Justin, clean it up. And when you ask me questions like that, I'm like, okay, step one is, again, figure out what your routine is, what your pattern is, and how to be disciplined in certain areas. Like, it made me change who I was. Really, it did. Like, how can I be not only better in this space, but how can I be better at home too? All right. When I first heard him, like, he said to me, he was like, yeah, we don't work weekends. We don't work after 5. I go, what do you mean? Like, I'm an editor, bro. I work all night. And he's like, no, at 5 o'clock, I'm going home to my family. And I was like, okay, he's running $3 million businesses. If he could shut it off, I know I could shut it off. That element, it put something in our family that created a better, it just got better. Like, the lifestyle got better. And then I continued to do that over and over again as I learned new things. And so, the community starts to grow from there. Right. I mean, I'm only here, and I only got the opportunity because of my relationship with people that I got into that community at City Light. Shout out to all my family over there. Like, we love them, but I made it a conscious decision to serve and like really be obedient. Right. Like, I didn't miss a day. I started during COVID, like, when everything shut down, people were scared to come out. I was like, hey, I'm outside working. I can go out. I can go do this too. There were a few times, like, I know everybody in the room, we all sneezing and sick, but we were serving God's house and building a community online at the same time. But even as that's going simultaneously, I'm building community around me. And so people, if you really, have people that love you and care for you, right? And I always say, I can always tell who really loves me and care for me because they ask me first, what can I pray about? Right? That's always a question. Hey, how can I pray for you? That's a person that loves you, right? Like, that truly means that. And so that was happening a lot more than what I was ever used to. People ask me that. And so it was one of those things where I was like, okay, this community is growing, and I'm getting closer and closer to individuals who are doing things at a high level that I want to do too. All right. And so that's how it just evolved from there. Right. It started off at the church family, went on to do the work with Ryan Pineda. And now I'm watching like a lot of City Light is working for the company. That company is continuing to grow. And I haven't seen a fight in the workplace. I haven't heard much drama. Ain't nobody sleeping with each other. It's all those toxic things that I was experiencing in other places wasn't happening there. And that spoke to the leadership. And that speaks to the core values of the company. And that speaks to all the, and so again, how do I start to develop, this for myself too, right? As my company, my personal company starts to kind of see some growth. All right, I need to set these same type of core standards, for my company. And so individuals that I want to work with aren't going to be just anybody who has the ability anymore, right? Yeah, we want the A players, of course, right? But it's got to be an individual that matches, the core of what we're trying to do. And so same thing continues to happen. We just, I don't believe in, fixing things that's not broken. And so if I see that it's working, I'm going to implement it and I'm going to try my best to have it. And so the community continues to grow. I think even my personal, following is seeing a uptick because I'm being more vocal and showing what I am doing and capable of. And so that community itself, like, if you don't stand for, something, then you're not going to be with it. And I think like that's important. It's like, to be bold in what you believe and really put it out there for people to join and be inviting at the same time. Like, Jane, you're so inviting all the time, right? And and that's something that I really like. Not only do I admire it from you, but I try to implement that too, right? And so when I can go and talk to someone and encourage someone, any opportunity I have, I try to do it. Like my wife would tell you I talk too much, right? And it's also because I wasn't like that before. I was kind of standoffish, I was kind of laid back and I didn't do much of that. But now what that has done for me is what I want to share for other people.
Oh, I love that. I mean, shoot, like I said, I'm interviewing you, but we're kind of interviewing each other right now. Yeah. But no, I love having words of affirmation back because oftentimes, we're moving and grooving. And when we're in a good groove, sometimes we forget even with ourselves to take a moment and say, wait a minute. Wait, I am making a difference. So even your compliment, maybe I look like someone that gets a lot of compliments, but I actually don't. I think I scare people because I'm just like, here's Jane Powers. I am in your face. But, you've gotten to know me. You've probably observed me. I'm actually a sensitive soul. Like I cry a lot. And Nick knows when I hurt somebody or there's even a small misunderstanding, it kills me. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Let me fix it. So even for you to just share, one of the hopefully many comments you might have positively where you're like, Jane, I love that you're so welcoming. You're affirming God truths because for so long I was teased and bullied. And I feel like a lot of leaders, a lot of strong, bold leaders, we don't acknowledge that maybe the biggest gift you envy about them, they were actually bullied for it. Like my intensity to make people laugh, my ability to crack jokes, even to complete strangers. I was bullied about it. Yeah. I've had comments of literally, Jane, do you have to talk to everybody? Why are you talking to them? Like I was depressed, Justin. So the fact that you're like, affirming God truths and saying it in a positive way, I'm like, you know what? I think this is me also having a moment with myself and people watching and listening. Like, don't you dare listen to the evil, negative, toxic voices because the enemy wants to degrade you. The enemy wants to use God's goodness in you for evil, to hurt you, to make you feel like, no, that ain't it. That's not cool or that's not really your gift. But when you lean into God and God's people, I know you were echoing about community, faith-based Christianity, all that, like-minded individuals. It's like, no, Jane, that is your superpower. Same for you. Just the way you lead, the way you move. Like, no, Justin, who cares what people may have said in the past? That is God's gift. Mm-hmm. That is your superpower. So even just to take a moment to celebrate together, I'm like, man, you're absolutely right. Because I felt a little insecure about it. Like even pressing record and starting this podcast, Justin, I was like, oh, shoot, are people going to judge me and be like, there's Jane again. There she goes talking. But you see my heart. Yeah. I just want to connect. If I'm wrong and you call me out and say, Jane, that's not right, I'm not even offended. It's like, hey, can we just even open up a conversation? Because without getting too far off on a tangent, people, especially now, people are so quick to assume, to get offended and to pull back. It's like, why don't we lean in? Why don't we help each other meet halfway? Like, hey, Justin, or hey, sis, hey, brother, like, I'm sorry if I came off a certain way. I want you to know I love you, right? Through it all, whatever it might be, I just love you. I am grateful. And you know that about me. No matter when or what I'm going through, I'm always like, what's up? So happy to see you. How's your wife? How's your kid? It's like, how can we be more of that collectively? Because if we keep projecting our own insecurity and just, again, quickly to be offended and cancel people or this and that, then we're never getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, I see you. We can agree to disagree. So just, I'm all about words of affirmation as well. So just your existence in our life and just you being in our marriage, it means the world to me. And I pray and hope that I can build a deeper community of faith-based people, because I'll be the first to share it in public. I lived a very double life. And I think that because of the way I used to be, I was afraid of letting her go. And we all know this. When you hold on, even if it's 0.5%, Justin, don't think that you can leap to the next level if you still hanging on to your old self. So trust me, every day I'm like, God, I'm so sorry, because like I know where you want to take me, but can you help me? Because I'm struggling, because I want that easy money. I want that instant gratification. And we talked about this. I want this quick platform and be successful. But if it's going to take 5 years for me to really kill it, God, give me the patience. Give me the consistency. So I just want to thank you in advance for being such a light to me, to my husband, to this community. Even right now, people listening and watching, it's like, wow, I love that dude. He's like the father I never had. He's like the brother I never had. No, real talk. Like even me right now, it's like, I actually don't have a lot of friends. I have a lot of acquaintances, but just to sit here with you and be so present with you, it's like, man, in case you forget, I know you're saying all I need is my mama and my wife. No, respectful. I respect that. However, I just wanted you to be reminded that there's so many people that are being changed by you and so blessed by you, Justin. And I told you that the other day. I said, listen, I don't know where you're going, but be ready. Be ready to speak. Be ready to own your platform with humility, but also confident God conviction, because you are chosen. You are worthy, you are deserving, and I cannot wait and selfishly shoot when you make it, not if. Hopefully you can afford me to join your team, and hopefully, you can make some space for my husband. But truly, like, it would be an honor one day to figure out, how I can support you. But most importantly, just this conversation alone, I think there's a lot of people that you probably perk their ears like, hey, I may not be in the digital creative scene, but I want to know Justin, or I want to be around that kind of godly man. Like, because I know I'm not the only person that worked in such evil, demonic, toxic environments. I know I'm not the only one, but I'm excited to say, you know what? We lived and learned, and now it's time to take our life lessons and move forward. So for you, because we could talk for days, what would be the greatest like goals and futures planned that is like a priority for finances, family, and honoring God?
Yeah. I mean, right now, and I can only, I like to, a lot of people think 10 years in advance and 20 years in advance. I like to focus right now. And sure, I have those aspirations for what I want in 10 years, but my focus right now, and that's what I want to speak from, because it's important to know what direction you're trying to head in now in order to get there. And so my right now, and this is just my honesty, my hopes in the next several months is to expand my reach and my network, right? And to be able to share and be bold in what I truly believe. There's not enough creators in our space that truly stand boldly in it. And that doesn't mean necessarily everywhere I go, I'm throwing my Bible around. But what that means is when you see me, you can see that light. And so I think like it's important for me in this next, journey, next few months, next year of mine, is to really try to expand the amount of people that I'm able to touch, right? And that means growing a following. That means getting in front of the camera. That means talking. And those opportunities are coming. I'm being blessed with those opportunities. But that's where my vision for myself is in that. And that means I get to help as many people as possible. I've learned from being behind the scenes and helping all these different creators and entrepreneurs that as their following grows, the more people they get to touch. and partnerships are created and lives are changed. You can change a community by changing one person in that community. And so that's my hope, right? Those the people that I know back home that are still trying to figure out what to do. Look at what I did. If I can do this, right? Because you're talking about an individual that had no plans of being in this space, truthfully, throughout high school. It wasn't until after college that I was like, okay, this is something I can get into. And so if it can happen for me later on, then it can still happen for you. As for you, it's later on too. And so I really want to like, hopefully I'm encouraging people. The other side to that is that, there aren't a lot of people that look like me having the opportunity to share, these platforms with individuals that are doing it at a high level. So it's important for me to become a better communicator, right? Study, right? That's what it takes. Study those that are doing it at a high level. Study those that are in this space that are truly, leading, our industry with their voice. And so for me, that's what this is going to be evolving into. I'm starting to read a little bit. I'm starting to take in a lot of content that is about speaking and being clear with your thoughts, speaking with conviction. And so that's what my ultimate goal is to get better at what I'm doing, sitting here with you, just so that my voice carries to those individuals that are younger, that look like me, that are older, that look like me, and they're trying to figure it out. Like, you do have an opportunity because you do have a story to tell to bless a lot of people with it. And so, as I continue to grow, you're helping me right now in that situation. And so, it's not necessarily going to be where I'm going to have enough to bring you on. We're going to be doing this thing together, right? You're not going to have to come with me because I'm going to be saying, hey, look, can I get one more podcast with you over there? I see you, it's taking off. So, it's those things that I'm really, focusing on. I'm standing next to the individuals that are doing it. So I might as well figure it out too and grow from it,
No, so real. And, being Asian American, I feel like we have to embrace our culture, embrace our history, embrace, our background, and be the change. So, I have these affirmation bracelets coming out, so stay tuned. But literally it says, be the change. Wow. Just so simple. Be the change. So again, you're hitting home to so many people. I just know so many lives are touched by you, your voice, and being a great example, because people just have this delusional idea you have to have money, you have to come from privilege, or you have to be a certain race. Let's just be real. Yeah. You got to look a certain way and fit in a box. I don't talk like that. You know that. My energy and my charisma doesn't match my cultural background, but this is who God made me. So I love that you're, even calling yourself out. Like, hey, if I got to do a little extra work, or I got to stay up and go to the library and read some books, like, you're just sharing to the world that there is no shame. Mm-hmm. Everyone has a different start. Everyone has, a different path, but it's never too late. Younger, older, anything in between. You are just such a great example of faith, the importance of God, and not giving up, not settling. So this is going to be a very challenging closing question for you.
Okay.
If you could share with the audience right now 3 life lessons, and you could even preach to your younger self, what would your top 3 life lessons be that just impacted you in the biggest way? Boom.
That's a good question. I'm gonna steal that too.
Okay.
First life lesson, I would truly say, like, again, never settle for what you don't believe God has for you. Understand that if you have the aspirations to do big things, prepare yourself and God will bless it. The other, number 2, I guess, you said 3. So life lesson, when you feel that you're in your deepest valley and you feel like, I'm losing hope, find community. Now, most people will say, dig yourself out, or, continue to push forward. Find God. Find community that will lead you to all those other things. Find that individual that will pray for you. Find that individual that will take you in and help you and guide you. And those individuals, be around people that you're trying to be like. It's important in life. And then my last life lesson truly would be, it's about never giving up on a situation and knowing when it's time to shift. You know, I've always say, be careful what you pray for and know what you really want in your prayer. Sometimes I have to pray for what to pray for. There was a period, you know, a year ago where I was like, God, give me vision on what's next, because I didn't know. I was like, I can feel something shifting. I don't know what that is. Give me the vision that you have, and that you know whatever is next for me to come, make me aware of it so that I can prepare. And so those are kind of like my life, you know, my life hacks. If you want like a better life hack that you can apply today, before you fall asleep, and I just gave this to actually a small group that I'm in, before you go to sleep, cut your Bible on, turn off the phone, sit it down. So that now you're creating a habit that the first thing you do when you wake up and pick up that phone is read your Bible. Life hack. Changed. I was trying to make better patterns for myself, and my thumb automatically went to Instagram. Like, it was like, pick up the phone, the thumb just did it. There's a hack for you, though. Open it up, turn the phone off, go to sleep. And the first thing you'll see when you wake up is your Bible. Something, no matter what that daily scripture is, will be life-changing and feed you to prepare you for your day.
Man, thank you for being the gem dropper today. Okay, you guys, now you know why we had this amazing, incredible, godly man in our studio. I feel so blessed. So get ready for part 2. I'll make sure we link all his information down below. Give him a follow. He's got some big things ahead, but more importantly, he's teaching us how to be present and not settle. So thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, keep shining your light and protect your peace.